They says that they will continue to mobilize people for the next demonstrations. This comes as government has banned a protest action that was planned for today. Togolese have been up in arms in demonstrations that come weeks after President Faure Ngansigbe, who has been president for 2 decades, was sworn into a new post of president of the Council of Ministers, which has no official term limits. The West African nation officially banned demonstrations since 2022 over security reasons. Dosei says that the cancellation of protests is a ploy.
It's the second time the government decided to ban the demonstration, and the government evokes the fact that we are in a sensitive period of electoral municipal election, but we all know that the electoral campaign is over, and that the vote took place more than a week ago. So we cannot accept this kind of explanation, but yesterday after our meeting, we decided to postpone for a last time this demonstration. We'll continue to call people for mobilization, and we hope that the next time will be the good time.
South Africa's African National Congress First Deputy Secretary General Nomvula Mokonyane says the conference with various African liberation movement is part of the party's renewal process. The ANC will from today convene a 4-day conference and host leadership from MPLA in Angola, Frelimo in Mozambique, SWAPO in Namibia, CCM in Tanzania, and ZANU-PF in Zimbabwe. The gathering will be convened under the theme Defending the Liberation Gains, Advancing Integrated Socio-Economic Development, Strengthening Solidarity for a Better Africa. The party says it hopes to have a frank dialogue with other former liberation movements. Mokonyane explains.
This is a good reawakening, and people have been wishing us well. And there's also been a request for observer status throughout the continent and abroad. And the other important thing, there's also been a request to have access to our content documents. And that on its own shows an appetite to make contributions. Those who are angry, some of them are actually saying, why did it take us this long?
And the trial of the former Democratic Republic of Congo President Joseph Kabila is expected to begin today. A military court will hear charges including treason and murder linked to his alleged support for Rwandan-backed M23 rebels. As Channel Africa's Jimmy Shokrani says, Kabila is expected to be in court to answer to some questions.
Many speculation that he is among of those who support the rebellion in the eastern part of the DRC. So this trial means many things in the DRC because until now Joseph Kabila didn't speak at loud voice that is one of the support of M23, as the government have always said that he's one of the supporters of that group, but until now Joseph Kabila didn't confirm.
And Member of Parliament's Transport Portfolio Committee in South Africa, Makashule Ghana, has called for enhanced security measures at the country's airports, particularly at the OR Tambo International Airport. This follows a serious security breach at the OR Tambo after a passenger boarded a flight to Ethiopia with 2 training hand grenades in their checked luggage. The breach, which was only discovered upon the passenger's arrival at the Bola International Airport in Ethiopia, has led to Airports Company South Africa ACSA terminating its contract with Aviation Coordination Services ACS. ACSA claims that the breach occurred in a whole baggage screening area managed by ACS. Ghana explains.
It is a serious breach because it speaks to the overall baggage handling at OR Tambo. The way baggage is being handled at OR Tambo has raised concerns, even issues of tampering with passenger baggage. But it also speaks to the ongoing dispute between ACS and AXA, insofar as was supposed to be the legitimate in terms of handling the baggage and the screening. But what we want to see is that there has to be enhanced security.
The Hong Kong police have issued arrest warrants for 19 activists living overseas and have offered a bounty for information leading to their arrest. They've been accused of national security crimes under the territory's Ukrainian security law imposed by Beijing. The BBC's Martin Yip reports.
4 of those accused, Elmer Yun, Victor Ho, Tony Choi and Johnny Fok, have previously been wanted for breaking the Beijing-imposed Hong Kong national security law. They have since been setting up a parliament in exile based in Vancouver. The organization ran elections that picked 15 Hong Kongers from around the world to serve in this unofficial Congress. The members took an oath of office a week ago. 10 of them have now joined the list of those subject to bounties.
For any news stories you'd like to share with us, please send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. For Channel Africa News, I am Matapela Mahape.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
And coming up in your sports news this hour, South Africa as well as Ghana will fight it out for the bronze medal match at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament, while the Tour de France route changed to avoid diseased cows. Details coming up at 12:30.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Well, thank you to Matapelo Mohapi with our news and Sibudi Makura with our sports headlines. Now, we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, an OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app available on the Apple and Google Play stores. And you can join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 at 406-9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And today on #Africa Updates asks, the political landscape in South Africa has been a hive of activity this week, with the suspension of a deputy leader of a political party for a month, and the firing of a minister, and then a motion of no confidence in the country's president, among others. Now, our question to you is, what is this top story happening in your country this week? Share your thoughts on all our social media platforms. It's #Africa Update Us.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
SABC Sports brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. I'll stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. And don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
South Africa's political party, the African National Congress, is hosting a liberation movement summit in the country. Our leaders from Angola's MPLA, Mozambique's Frelimo, and Namibia's SWAPO, Tanzania's CCM, and Zimbabwe's ZANU-PF are in attendance. Now, the summit aims to safeguard liberation achievements, advance socio-economic progress, and strengthen African unity. And for more, we are joined live by ZANU-PF spokesperson Farai Marapira. Farai, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you for having me as the Director of Information.
Thank you for that correction, Farai. Now, how do you envision the Liberation Movement Summit contributing to a collective strategy for addressing Africa's pressing socio-economic challenges, such as poverty, inequality, and unemployment. And before you get to that response, Farai, I'd like you to just highlight for us what it means to have such a summit.
Well, this is a summit of movements that have for decades been connected to the needs of the African people, to the need to pursue the betterment of the African people. The first need was political liberation, and this we achieved in different stages and at different times. So now we're moving into a process where we need to move to the next stage, and the next challenges which are there, which are to create economies which are sound for our people, which are to create living conditions which are sound for our people. And as we have the mandate of ensuring that we seek the betterment of our people, we come together so that we break bread and we discuss and find common ways in which we can achieve these goals.
And then in terms of just the liberation movements, how do you look at achieving these goals, especially with the fact that there has been a decline somewhat in some of these countries with the liberation movements losing a lot of support from their previous supporters and the younger generation?
Yeah, there's always a law of attrition against liberation movements, which began from their inception. And this is something that we acknowledge and something that we accept and something we are always vigilant to. Be that as it may, where we make losses and we make drawbacks, we do not surrender, we re-strategize, we sit down and we see how best to go around those obstacles that will have been created.
Now, given the diverse economic and political landscapes of the participating countries, what mechanisms will be put in place to ensure that the summit's resolutions are implemented effectively?
Diversity breeds power. Diversity breeds a stronger unit, because this is an infusion and a different view of the same issue from different perspectives and different cultural contexts. So within our diversity lies our power, in that we get to share the common goal of development, but we are viewing it from different angles, but with the common purpose and the common noble design. So this diversity is our strength as a summit. And this is what we look to harness on, so that at the end of the summit, we create wholesome resolutions and wholesome decisions, which reflect and impact people within our individual countries.
Now, the concept of liberation movements can be interpreted in various ways. How does ZANU-PF define these achievements, and what steps will be taken to safeguard them in the face of evolving global dynamics?
Well, as ZANU-PF, our issue at the present moment is the economy and ensuring that we keep on developing it in the leaps and strides in which we are doing so. We have got a very vibrant steel sector, which is going to actually revolutionize most of the economies within us as SADC. In the ensuing months and years, this will become more and more prevalent. So these are some of the issues we're looking at that we are now in charge of our economy as Zimbabwe. We are developing our economy. All our main sectors are improving year by year, be it the agricultural sector, the mining sector. And we are now developing a manufacturing sector. We are now looking at ensuring that our products are no longer sold as raw materials, but we are now putting improvements on them. So this is what we're looking at as ZANU-PF, where it's an exciting period of our life as a political party, because we are now moving from strength to strength, and we are now moving under the leadership of President Mnangagwa towards attaining the goals and the aspirations of our people, brick by brick.
Now, Farai, we've seen a number of Zimbabweans leaving the country and becoming expats in other parts of the world, including South Africa, including neighboring countries, not only South Africa. And I remember at some point there was a call for Zimbabweans to return home to help in redeveloping their home country. And my question is, what sort of response did you get from that call to Zimbabwean nationals to return home and, develop the country from within the country? And it would be interesting to find out if the call was heeded, firstly, and secondly, if not, what are the reasons behind it, and how are you dealing with that crisis as ZANU-PF?
Well, foremost, there is no crisis. The advantage we have as a country is that our people are very connected to their motherland. So despite media reports and all other things are negative, which come as part of asymmetrical warfare, our citizenry in the diaspora comes back home. And I'd love to let you know that a lot are now making maneuvers and moves to come back home, reinvest in their country, excuse me, to reinvest in their country. So we do not have a crisis. We actually are buoyant by the fact that so many of our expats are now looking at coming back home to be part of this rebounding economy. So they're coming back with the knowledge that they've gained from other advanced technologies they've also acclimatized with in the countries they've been with. So this is actually one of our biggest assets in that the expats are coming back home to ensure that they are part of this rebounding economy. They're coming back with a lot of knowledge and expertise, which we appreciate.
Now, the summit's agenda includes discussions on strengthening African unity. What specific initiatives or collaborations do you foresee emerging from the summit that could enhance regional cooperation and solidarity among African nations?
Well, I will not put the horse before the cart and speculate as to what resolutions will come out, but what can be for certain is that there's going to be very sound resolutions, practical, implementable resolutions, and these are going to have timelines and drawers by which there'll be dates by which these should be fulfilled. So this is not just a gathering to talk. This is a gathering to set strategies, times, and dates for their attainment. So this is one of the most important summits for us as liberation movements, because we continue to remain relevant by continuing to communicate, continuing to strategize together, continuing to ensure that we decide together how we build our tomorrow.
And also, Farai, I guess also accountability is also quite strong there.
Definitely. When we speak, we do not speak with forked tongues. We are liberation movements. We are brothers and sisters with relationships forged in blood. So when we speak, we do not skirt around issues. We are honest with each other. We speak in love. We speak in development, and we speak in unity. So it's a very candid meeting. It's a very straightforward meeting. It is a meeting of brothers and sisters, meeting in love with a long history.
Farai, thank you for joining us on Africa Update. We have run out of time. Thank you so much for your time. And that is Farai Marapira, who is ZANU-PF Communications Director, joining us on the line.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Update only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
It is 19 after 12 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The political landscape in South Africa has been a hive of activity this week. On Tuesday night, the Patriotic Alliance Party leader, Gayton McKenzie, suspended his deputy, Kenny Gunene, from his role as the City of Johannesburg's member of the Mayoral Council for Transport and from the party political activities for 1 month, pending an investigation into his presence at the home of a suspect in the murder case of well-known DJ Somebody during a police raid on Monday. Also on Monday, President Cyril Ramaphosa fired the former Higher Education and Training Minister, Dr. Nobuhle Ngabane. On the same night, Ramaphosa suspended the South Gauteng Province National Prosecuting Authority head advocate Andrew Chauke, pending an inquiry into his fitness to hold office. And also on Tuesday, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party officially filed a no-confidence motion against President Cyril Ramaphosa. Now, to look at these developments and more, we are joined on the line by Dr. Nzigelelo Breakfast, who is leading the Center for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution at the Nelson Mandela University. Dr. Breakfast, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, this was a mouthful, and watching everything unfold from the beginning of the week, it was a jam-packed media week, and just the response. Talk to us about the suspensions, firstly, of Kenegunene, Patriotic Alliance Deputy President and a member of the Mayoral Committee on Transport. How does he justify his being at a place where somebody is being arrested? He doesn't know this person, and without giving us information as to who these journalists he was assisting were.
Yeah, I think his party, Patriotic Alliance, has been dealt with a blow in a big way, given the fact that it has been doing very well of late, posing a serious threat to the Democratic Alliance. Also, taking a strategic advantage of some of the gaps in the public discourse, in particular with regard to the issue of foreign nationals. So this is a bit of a setback. I could hear the leader of the party, Gayton. He was in pain when he was explaining the decision that he made to put the person in question on a special leave for about a month, pending the investigation that has been instituted. At the moment, it's quite difficult to see which way the wind is blowing. I don't want to preempt the outcome, but I think there are a lot of questions that people are grappling with. And also, in the light of that is the revelations that were unveiled by General Mkwanazi about institutionalization of corruption within SEPS. And subsequent to that, the people have been arrested regarding the shooting of the late DJ somebody. So it's really an interesting kind of event, but the party of Kunene has been really dealt with a blow in a big way. And I mean, the key question is whether it will recover from this or not.
Now, a lot happened in the political space in the past few days. Dr. Ngabane fired as Higher Education and Training Minister. The South Gauteng NPA head, Advocate Andrew Chauke, is suspended. What do you make of these developments? And also, just on the NPA head, Andrew Chauke's suspension, where just, I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, a former head of NPA saying that the advocate was used as a scapegoat.
So you're raising two questions at once, so I'll deal with them one by one.
Yes, please.
First of all, let me address the issue of the outgone minister. I think I saw that coming because the minister was given an order. I don't know whether at short notice or at the 11th hour when she was asked not to take a trip to Asia, China. To me, that was a sign that the worst was about to come. So I saw that one coming. But I think the straw that broke the camel's back was the statement that she made over the weekend last week on Sunday in the Eastern Cape when she said that there is no bad blood between herself and the president and the ANC, as if now the ANC was turning a blind eye to the allegation that has been leveled against her of lying under oath. So I think that might have angered the president, but the following day the president decided to let go of her. But I think people have been appointed, Puti, Manamela, and the deputy Puti. I think he deserves that, but we'll see how it goes in terms of how he will be executing his duties. But he has held the position of deputy minister for a very long time. And then the second issue is about the suspension of the advocate. You see, again, I link that to the allegations that were made by the general of KZN, though he pitched his allegations in general. But now we have seen, I don't know, a major shake-up, if I can put it like that, within the security apparatus. And this is quite interesting. But I think in as much as this is a very important decision to put him on a suspension. But at the same time, I think a whole lot more the president needs to do if he wants to cool us off as citizens, because the public trust between the powers that be and citizens has been broken down.
Also, Dr. Breakfast, just in terms of the timing, firstly, when we go back and at the NPA director, Advocate Shamila Batoi, writing to President Cyril Ramaphosa 2 years ago to request that Chauke be suspended, what's your take on President Ramaphosa's, promises of a cleanup and just his reaction time? You've given the president a rating of 3 out of 10. Okay, I'd like you to unpack that for us very briefly.
So at the glance, the president, when he came into power, he made a lot of commitments. In fact, I think he overcommitted. He says all sorts of things in theory, but does very little in practice. If yes, there have been good things that he has done in the beginning in terms of the rolling out of the changes, but those changes have not achieved their intended objectives. That's why there are still allegations about this and that. And also, if you look at the people that have been found wanting regarding state capture, there are very few. Only, I think, one person was found guilty last week.
Yes,
but what about other people? Yes.
And it happened coincidentally, I guess.
Precise, but also look at the findings. The findings of the Zondo Commission, they are still gathering dust, in particular the ones that are affecting ANC members. Gwede Mantashe is on record having said that the ANC needs to put those findings on hold because those findings will hurt the party, meaning that the first thing that comes to the minds of senior ANC leaders is the ANC, not the country. But the president has been hamstrung or embroiled into the factional battles of the ANC, even in terms of the application of, the step-aside principle. It has been used, to sideline certain people aligned to him, but not being used across the board. I mean, there have been people who have not been affected by this step aside. So because of that, I don't think that he has risen up to the expectations of people of this country.
Now, Dr. Breakfast, there's also been opposition to the appointment of Professor Feroz Kachalia as acting police minister. Opposition parties saying that the appointment violates the constitution, and the EFF going as far as announcing that the party is taking President Ramaphosa to the Constitutional Court to declare him a constitutional delinquent for appointing acting police minister Kachalia. Firstly, does the EFF have a case? And then secondly, what is wrong with Kachalia's suitability to be acting police minister?
I don't think the EFF and MK have a case. I'll tell you why, because the Constitution, you see, we're not talking about employment here, where you go through the process of being shortlisted and blah, blah, blah. This person is appointed by the president, and there is a provision for the president to do that. I'm not a spokesperson of the president. I'm just outlining what is stipulated in the Constitution. So he is within his right to do that. I don't think that he's off the mark. So I don't think that they have a winnable case here. But also, if you say that the president cannot put the other minister on special leave, I think also you are off the mark, because we cannot be a country that is gullible, whereby a person steps up to the plate and makes all sorts of allegations, and we are expected to accept them uncritically. That is irresponsible. We need to engage with any claims which are made about anyone. There's this thing called the law of natural justice. So people have a right, to present their case. So I think the president has done that. Yes, I understand politics is a game of optics, but at the same time, when you are a leader of the country, you have to follow the process. so that you appear to be fair and square.
And finally, just very briefly, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party, they've submitted a request to the Speaker to consider its motion of no confidence in President Cyril Ramaphosa, among other things, failing to fire Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. Your take?
Well, I mean, they are within their right to do that. Remember, they are number 3 in the lineup of the biggest political parties. One of their responsibilities is to provide oversight. So it's fine if they do that. But again, I don't think that this motion will take off the ground and fly. I think it will be shot down by ANC and other coalition partners of the ANC.
Dr. Breakfast, always a pleasure chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. That's Dr. Ntsikelelo Breakfast, who is leading the Center for Security, Peace and Conflict Resolution at the Nelson Mandela University, joining us on the line. Our news headlines up next with Matapelo Mohapi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. Headlines this hour. South Africa's African National Congress is hosting a Liberation Movement Summit in South Africa, attended by leaders from various African countries to safeguard liberation achievements, advance socio-economic progress and strengthen African unity. And Fransai Toyin plans to continue mobilizing people for future demonstrations following the government's ban on planned protest action. Tongolese protests erupted following President Faure Gnassingbé's appointment, with Jose accusing the cancellation as a ploy. And Britain, France and Germany are holding talks with Iran over its nuclear program in Istanbul, marking the first meeting since Israel's June 12 aerial bombardment. More on these and other stories at top of the hour.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports. On Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibudi Makura with the latest sports news at this hour. We'll start the sports bulletin with some football news as we look ahead, of course, to Banyana facing off with Ghana in the 3rd and 4th place playoff match out at the Women's Africa Cup of Nations tournament. That match will kick off at 6 p.m. Central African time, where, of course, both teams are looking to leave this competition with some silverware. It's obviously going to be a bronze medal between these two teams, having, of course, been beaten in the semi-finals by their respective opponents in that semi-finals. Of course, also building up, of course, to the final tomorrow, where we'll get to see Nigeria, the most successful team in the history of the competition, facing off with Morocco, who were finalists back in 2022, and hoping, of course, to do much more better at home again this time around against the Super Falcons of Nigeria. That final will be played tomorrow night. The Proteas men's head coach Shukri Conrad has today, or rather did yesterday, announce a full-strength squad for the upcoming white ball tour against Australia that is scheduled to take place next month. Aiden Markram as well as Themba Bavuma return to lead the Proteas to a 3-match T20 series, as well as a ODI T20 and ODI series. That one will be played from the 19th to the 24th of August. The matches will also be played across Darwin, Cairns as well as Mackay. Conrad was also asked about not selecting the likes of Harold Coetzee, and this is what he had to say, of course, about his selection as well. Also saying that he felt Coetzee had fallen behind the pecking order, but also emphasized that this is not the end for him. He says Coben Bosch has selected himself with some outstanding performances recently.
Look, there are only so many quicks you can put in your team, There are only so many bowlers in terms of a balance. And again, given what's gone before, given what's currently happening, again, the players that we selected, I believe, are ahead of Gerald in the pecking order. In the 50-over format, I want to try and get as many all-rounders in the squad. And I think you cannot ignore what Coben Bosch has done over the last couple of months.
On to this now. South African Endurance Series CEO Liema Letlaga says she looks forward to an exciting installment of the 4 hours of Kyalami on Saturday. Now, the highly anticipated Motorsport African Championship will include top team battles in the high-performance machines, from the prototypes to GT car racing. Now, Letlaga says motorsport fans can also look forward to the entertainment zones that cater for both adults as well as children. The Kyalami Grand Prix circuit. Letlaga says 4 rounds of the South African Endurance Series hits the track this weekend at the legendary Kyalami Grand Prix circuit, and it's also said to be a motorsports fan's dream. The main event, which is a thrilling 4-hour endurance race, will see top teams battle it out in the high-performance machines, from prototypes to GT cars. Now, following successful races in Zwartkops, in Aldo, as well as Killarney, the Kyalami round promises a day of intense endurance. Racing at top teams as well as drivers return to the track for another high-stakes battle. And that action obviously is taking place tomorrow out in Midrand in the north of Johannesburg. And finally, organisers have shortened stage 19 of the Tour de France in order to avoid a herd of diseased cattle in the Col des Saisses. The route has been cut from 130 kilometres to 95 kilometres, with 2 of the 5 planned categorised climbs dropped. Now, racers as well as riders will set out on 1 hour later in Albertville, and then will skip the first 2 climbs of Côte de Henry Sir Eugene as well as Col des Saisses before rejoining the original route near Beaufort. Now, there are also 3 stages remaining of the Tour de France, which conclude in Paris, France, this Sunday. Tadej Pogacar, by the way, extended his lead over rival Jonas Vingegaard to 4 minutes as well as 26 seconds on Thursday. So it's going to be a thrilling end to a Tour de France this weekend. Well, that's a wrap from the sports desk at the SAWA. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, simply send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or give us a call on +27 11714 4459. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Musibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Hi there. Do you want to elevate your business and give it a voice in South Africa and Africa as a whole? Well, in that case, let Channel Africa make this a possibility. Channel Africa is willing to advertise your business for as little as 30,000 rands or $1,719.18. To get access to these great rates, send all requests to mukwenata@SABC. That's MOKOENATA@SABC. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Business news on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Good afternoon. South Africa's risk-sensitive rand stocks and government bonds lost ground with the possibility of new developments in the United States trade deal negotiations, leaving investors cautious heading into the weekend. The rand traded at 17.7150 against the dollar, down 0.5% on the day. It lost about 0.7% yesterday, weighed down by a stronger U.S. currency and weaker gold prices after about a week of gains. ETM Analytics says that the dollar move higher yesterday and could have triggered a position squaring ahead of the weekend, where fresh news might break ahead of the Trump administration's tariff deadline on the 1st of August. Wage talks under the facilitation of South Africa's Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration, CCMA, to bring to an end a strike action by FlySafe Air pilots will resume this afternoon. The parties, FlySafe Air and trade union Solidarity, met at the union's office on Wednesday for hours until late in the night as the two tried to find each other. The pilots are demanding a 10.5% salary increase and a revised rostering for the workers, while the employer is offering 5.7% wage hike. Katlego Legodi reports.
It's been almost a week of industrial action by fly-safer pilots belonging to trade union Solidarity. Several flights were cancelled earlier this week, leaving travel plans up in the air and passengers frustrated at various airports. The airline has reduced its operations by at least 30% and is getting help from the South African Airways in the interim. Solidarity remains firm on their demand for a 10.5% salary increase and a revised rostering for the workers, while the employer has termed this as feasibly unsustainable, tabling a 5.7% offer. The talks this afternoon, under the facilitation of the CCMA, are a last-ditch attempt to bring the parties together with the hope that the strike action will be called off soon.
The International Monetary Fund plans a mission to Senegal in August to address hidden debt and start talks on the contours of a new loan program. Senegal is grappling with the billions in debts hidden by the previous administration, which have prompted the IMF to freeze its loan program. Bophelo Shole reports.
In a media briefing, the IMF's communication director, Julie Kozak, said that the team will use the opportunity to initiate discussions on the contours of a new IMF-supported program for Senegal. Kozak says the lender needs more data before it can firm up its assessment on Senegal's debt situation and also needs an agreement on key remedial measures. The IMF's executive board must either approve a misreporting waiver, many investors' base case, or order Senegal to pay back previous program disbursements. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I am Bophelo Shole.
Morocco will spend $4.2 billion over the next 5 years to overhaul its main airports ahead of the World Cup. It will co-host with Portugal and Spain. An agreement was signed to that end between the Moroccan government and the Airports Authority, ONDA. Lebogang Mabange reports.
Under the deal, of just over $2.5 billion will be allocated to airport expansion and over $1.5 billion will go to maintenance and land acquisition. The government plans to expand its airport capacity to 80 million passengers by 2030 from 38 million currently. Morocco reported a record 17.4 million visitors last year, up 20% from 2023, and it expects to attract 26 million tourists in 2030.
The dollar index was set for its biggest weekly drop in a month as investors contended with tariff negotiations and positioned for central bank meetings next week, while the pound dipped after softer than expected British retail sales data. Both the US Federal Reserve and the Bank of Japan are expected to hold rates steady at next week's policy meetings, but traders are focusing on the subsequent comments to gauge the timing of the next move. The dollar managed to rebound a touch against the euro yesterday. However, after Trump said he did not intend to fire Chair of the Federal Reserve of the United States, Jerome Powell, as he has frequently suggested he could. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,527 naira. Botswana, 13 pula 255, Kenya 128 shilling 28, and Zambia 23 kwacha 19. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you 5 real 19. In Russia, 78 rubles 97. India, 86 rupees 38. China, 7 yuan 17. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 17 rand 58 cents. $1 is trading at 73 pence to the British pound and 85 to the euro. A look at commodities markets now. Gold is trading at $3,345 and platinum at $1,389 per ounce, while the price of Brent crude oil is at $69.48 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business in Johannesburg, I'm Thabiso Lohoko.
business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
Well, thank you to Tabisolo Huku with our business news. It is 12:45 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. France has announced that it will officially recognize the state of Palestine in September, making it the first G7 nation to do so. On social media platform X, French President Emmanuel Macron said peace was possible with an immediate ceasefire, release of hostages, and massive humanitarian aid to the people of Gaza. My colleague Lebogang Mabange spoke to Naim Gina, a senior researcher at Mapungubwe Institute and executive director, Afro-Middle East Center.
Macron has been talking about this for a good few months now, about the possibility that France would consider this, etc. I think he's now kind of sealed the deal in a manner of speaking, announcing that recognition will happen officially in September. It's a big thing for the G7. I mean, at the moment, there are 3 other European states that have begun the process of recognizing Palestine: Norway, Ireland, one other. But France is by far the most important of those in Europe, and as you say, a member of the G7 as well. Still, the number of countries that don't recognize a Palestinian state are in a minority. There's more than 140 out of 163 UN member states that have already recognized the Palestinian state. What does this actually mean in reality on the ground? Right now, not much. Saying that we recognize the Palestinian state doesn't end the genocide for people in Gaza, doesn't lift the siege for people in the West Bank, doesn't mean that Israel is going to suddenly dismantle its illegal settlements in the West Bank. All of this, the International Court of Justice has ruled about, said that these settlements have to be dismantled, that Israel's occupation is illegal, etc., and nothing has been done. So another member state at this point in time, another UN member state, recognizing the Israeli state doesn't really mean much concretely.
But could we see more countries joining in now? Do you think this move by France will somehow influence other Western powers to shift their stance on Palestine?
It's possible. It's possible that a few other European states might follow. Not in this year, but after France has done it, so perhaps next year. It's also possible that the action of France will, to some extent, embolden some other states to, even if they don't recognize the Palestinian state, to take some stronger measures against Israel, and that will, in concrete terms, make much more sense. So, for example, if this means that there's a discussion in Europe after this, and the UK and Germany, for example, decide to cut down their weapons supplies to Israel, that can actually make a concrete difference. I mean, Germany is the second largest supplier of arms to Israel. The UK manufactures certain parts for Israel, F-35s, for example. So there can be those kinds of impacts out of, or consequences out of the French action, but we wait to see. Right now, it seems that much of the Western world seems to be so beholden to Israel that if they make one critical statement, they think that they've gone too far. I mean, the European officials have publicly even supported the genocide in Palestine. So, we shouldn't hold our breath.
Was it a surprise at all that the U.S. and Israel has condemned this announcement?
No, that's not at all surprising, of course. I mean, one expected Israel, of course, to condemn it. And one would have expected that the U.S. would say something critical about it. I think that the U.S. comment is, particularly from the Secretary of State, attacking a foreign president directly is a bit much, calling his decision a reckless decision, saying that it sets back peace. This makes absolutely no sense. There's a genocide taking place. how does a diplomatic action like this, which doesn't mean anything concretely, set back peace? But from the Israeli responses, those responses are interesting. I mean, Netanyahu, saying that it rewards terror, etc., that a Palestinian state will not be helpful. His party, the Likud party's official policy, is an Israeli state that includes the West Bank and Gaza. His defense minister, even stronger statements. The policy is that they should actually annex the West Bank and Gaza. And so it's no surprise that they say that they don't want a Palestinian state. They want Palestinians to live within an apartheid state that they control. Of course, at the moment, anyway, the Israeli state fully controls the West Bank and controls Gaza.
That was my colleague Lebohang Mabange speaking to Naeem Gina, senior researcher at Mapungubwe Institute and executive director, Afro-Middle East Center.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
Malawi's former president, Joyce Banda, was the first to present her presidential nomination papers at Bingu International Convention Center in Lilongwe on Thursday, ahead of the September 16th, 2025 general elections. Banda, who is the founder and leader of the People's Party, PP, is one of the 21 presidential candidates to show desire to contest in the presidential race. She has chosen Kumbo Kachali of the Freedom Party, FP, as her running mate. Kachali served as vice president of Malawi during Banda's reign from 2012 to 2014. This means Banda and Kachali have formed an electoral alliance. George Mango has more from Blantyre.
That was the mood at the jam-packed Bingu International Convention Center in the administrative capital, Lilongwe. This as former President Joyce Banda presented papers to the Malawi Electoral Commission MEC to contest the presidential position on September 16, 2025. This means the political landscape is now getting hotter for those contesting to convince 7.2 million plus registered voters to vote for them. In total, there are 6 independent presidential aspirants and 14 political party-backed aspirants. In fact, the number of presidential hopefuls is expected to rise as MEC's window for collecting such papers remains open until July 30. Banda was upbeat about her running mate Kumbo Kachali, with whom they ruled Malawi together between 2012 and 2014, following the demise of former president, the late Bingu wa Mutharika, while in office.
I stand before the nation this morning to present myself before you and the Malawi Electoral Commission of the People's Party's presidential candidate in the forthcoming September 16th elections. I also have the honor to announce that Right Honorable Kumbo Hastings Kachali, former Vice President of this nation and President of Freedom Party, will be my running mate in this presidential campaign.
But MEC Chair Justice Annabel Mtalimanja said all presidential nomination papers are subject to scrutiny and their fate will be made public before ballot papers are printed.
Your Excellency, the former head of state, Madam Joyce Banda, and your running mate, Right Honorable Kumbo Hastings Kachali, former Vice President.
During her presentation, former President Banda indicated that she wants to contest to bring back the lost social welfare, economic glory, governance and democratic principles of Malawi.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a tried and proven pair to run the affairs of state. particularly at a time such as this. Thank you.
Meanwhile, the process of presenting presidential nomination papers continues this Friday with former President Peter Mutharika of the Democratic Progressive Party DPP. It remains unknown as to who would be Mutharika's running mate. The ceremony ends on July 30 with incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera said to be the last, while the rest of the candidates will present their papers within the set dates. As it stands, other candidates destined to present their papers include former Reserve Bank Governor Dalitso Kabambe of the United Transformation Movement, UTM, incumbent Vice President Michael Usi, former Vice President Kasim Chilumpa, and Atupele Muluzi, son of the country's former President Bakiri Muluzi. George Mhango, Channel Africa News, Blantyre.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
So yesterday we asked and focused on a question that there has been a lot of response on. We focused on Cameroon's upcoming elections in October, with the question being, do you think African leaders overstay their welcome, and should there be a final cutoff for presidents, or should they be allowed to continue until they feel it is time to leave, with 92-year-old President Paul Biya in the running for another term in office? And we have some responses and comments, starting with Bambayeka, and they say that, I wonder who is running the country. And Sobotla Manyosi says, where are the Cameroonian youth to lead the country? And Q Silinga says, enforce a cutoff? Ain't no way. A 92-year-old going for re-election. These are just some of the responses and comments that we got from you, our listeners, and continue with us on all our social media platforms. And we must say we are quite excited about the responses that we are getting, and the fact that you are engaging with us on Africa Update. And just a reminder of today's questions. We are looking at South Africa, and in terms of what is happening and unfolded in South Africa with the firing of a minister, the political landscape in the country, literally a hive of activity this month, a deputy leader of a political party suspended for a month, and a motion of no confidence in the country's president, among others. Now, our question to you today is, what is the top story happening in your country this week? This is our question on hashtag Africa Update. Ask, share your views and your thoughts on all our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can send us your comments and voice notes on +2763 as 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Ask. And that's how we wrap Africa Update today. Thank you for joining us today and this week, and continue with us on all our social media platforms. And we say thank you to our producer Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator Katu Madaba, and social media Sfiso Sope and Talent Butelezi. It's been a great day and a great week. Have a good weekend, and let's do this again on Monday. Bye-bye.